Let's go. I've been waiting for this season for so long. Loki for All Time is the September season for Marvel Snap. It looks amazing. I'm so hyped for these cards, guys. Like I've been saving my caches and everything for a while now because we saw this in the data mines and pretty much everything held true. Now you're going to notice really quickly, I want to get out of the way. This is an old image where it has Loki as a 3-4. But as you can see above me, it's a 3-5, and that is the actual stat line of the card. There was a developer update video that I'll have the link to in the description so you can check it out, where Ben Brode, Cozy, Dexter was on there. It was pretty fun. I think they crush it every single time. It always gets me hyped. So here we're going to talk about the cards, how strong I think they're going to be, and then we're just going to talk about some synergies and maybe some different strategies we could pull off with these cards. All right, so first we have Loki. He's the season pass card, and I'm pretty hyped for this. I mean, it's crazy that we've gone so long without Loki joining the game, right? There's a lot of staple Marvel characters, and they're holding a few back, like Loki himself, and he's finally jumping in because the season 2 of the show is coming out soon, so the timing just works out. I love it. This character looks fun. The card looks very, very fun, but do I think it's going to be all that strong? I don't really, but there is a silver lining. I think there's a few strong plays that this card can set up. So what does Loki do? He's the 3-5. That's an excellent stat line. That's like premium stats, okay? And his ability is on reveal, replace your hand with cards from your opponent's starting deck, give them -1 cost. So it's a discount. It's almost like Sarah, but cheaper on a better stick. So that seems good, right? Except you don't know what you're going to get, right? The RNG aspect is real. And you might think, well, you're still going to get your opponent's cards, and your opponent probably brought good cards to the table. Maybe you don't know that every time. And then sometimes those cards, maybe it's like a destroy synergy, but you don't get death and null in your hand. You get all the other things, and it doesn't really quite work out. But I would say more times than not, it's probably going to be to your benefit. At least hopefully. The destroy package is like one of the worst examples, because if you continue to destroy things, you're buffing their null, discounting their death. It's going to be a little bit harder, and you want to play the cards in your hand, right? You put a bunch of cards in your hand, and you got no other choices except for what you draw after. So you got to watch out, but there's some crazy synergies like Quinjet, right? That's the craziest one they mentioned in the video, but it's so good. I'm going to have the snapper pass video for this in a couple of days, so stay tuned. I have discovered some really important mechanics, but I'm going to spoil one here for you today, and that is Quinjet discounting the cards by 1, but because of the minimum of 1 tag on Quinjet, if you pull a 2-cost card from your opponent's starting deck, right, it's only going to get discounted by Loki, not Quinjet. It won't go below that threshold. Loki's discount is applying first. Quinjet's an ongoing, so it's going to happen second to your hand, and it won't bring anything beyond 1. So you got to watch out for that. But if you do pull a 1-cost card from their starting deck, that'll go straight to 0 because Loki applies the discount. He doesn't have that limitation, and then Quinjet's basically doing nothing at that point. So pretty interesting, really good for a lot of cards. Like if you get a couple of 4-cost, 5-cost, just crazy discounts. You even throw in Zaboom maybe. It's still relevant, and they have a bunch of 4-cost cards. Again, you're at the mercy of what you get from them. So it depends. It's hard to say, but it seems pretty good on paper. Collector. Collector's so good, guys, because if you do a full swap, you got 7 cards in your hand, and this is one thing I got wrong when I talked about it in the data mines, okay? It's going to replace your hand. So if I have 4 cards in my hand, you're going to throw 4 back, and you're going to get 4 from your opponent's starting hand, okay? So Collector, if I had 7, I had a full hand. Well, I guess that would never happen, right? If I had 6, right? Because I play Loki, I have 6 cards in my hand, throw them away, and I get 6 from my opponent's deck. That is +6 power for the Collector. That's not even talking any other buffs beforehand that we can maybe pull off with the Collector using like an Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. deck or something along those lines. You get this guy to a 2-8 right under the Shang-Chi destroy threshold. Like that is just sick. That is just amazing. And they work one after the other. You know, you can play Collector on 2 and then Loki on 3. I don't know if you'll have enough cards to pull off that quantity of power, but still you can see the potential. It's very, very strong. I like that shell a lot, especially the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and stuff like that. I saw somebody call the deck Agents of Asgard, which is pretty cool. But another card that I don't see people talking about that I actually think is nuts with Loki is Agatha Harkness. Dude, okay, here's the thing about Agatha, okay? You draw your opening hand. It's going to be 3 cards, then you draw 1 card, right? You end up with 4 on turn 1. Agatha jumps from your deck into your hand at the start, so you actually start with 5 cards. It's one of the ways to know if you're playing against an Agatha deck. If you look at the little deck counter on the portrait of your opponent, and you see that they have 1 less card than they should and 1 more card in their hand, they're probably an Agatha deck. Same thing that you would do if you're trying to check for Thanos with all the stones in the deck. So you thin your deck by 1. You put America Chavez in the deck. You thin it again. You have a lot of cards in your hand. You make it so that maybe Agatha can't play a whole lot, so the hand gets really big. Better chances of drawing Loki. Loki is played, replacing your hand. You get a bunch of discounted cards. You then take control of the match because Agatha disappears. That seems really good to me, just to increase your odds of actually getting to that Loki card, which you have probably built your deck around. So I have a really nasty brewing deck that I'm excited to show with you guys. Definitely subscribe to the channel, because we do these snapper path videos where I let you guys know if you should, pick up the card, if it's worth your precious tokens. In this case, it's a season pass card, so you're straight up wallets. But I got a good deck for you guys. I'm excited to show. So that's Loki. Looks really fun. I'm giving him 3 stars though, despite all the fun. I don't think there's enough deck building. I think the RNG is too heavy to be reliant. So he's just getting 3. Next up is Alioth. Now, this one was my most anticipated data mine. When I saw this, I was so fired up. It looks like so much fun. He was originally a 5/5. And that had a lot more potential and kind of seemed absolutely broken. Was changed in the data mines to be a 6/5. Still seems crazy to me. I think it's such a strong card. Alioth, 6/5. On reveal, destroy all enemy cards played here this turn, including unrevealed cards. Now, at first glance, you might be a little frustrated because it's another destroy card, and rightfully so. I think there will be some destroy lists that find use out of Alioth. But I think the best way to make use of Alioth is in a lockdown control list. I've been doing a lot of absolutely, I got to Infinite this season. I got an Infinity ticket. I got Infinity Border, like all that stuff with a deck that runs a lot of Lockdown, the Goblins, Daredevil, Professor X, and my finishers with Destroyer and Orca, believe it or not. So I feel like Alioth could take the spot of one of those big guys and you'd be just fine, because the idea is that you win one location fairly early on, and then you just make a checkmate scenario in the other location. And that is Alioth. Alioth is literally checkmate, because if you have priority, which you probably do if you won at least one location, so try and manage your resources to acquire priority going to that final bell. And then if you do, it's over. It's straight up over, because it doesn't matter. Then no on reveal will save them, nothing. Unless they have established an armor or a Cosmo early on, which they could have, but if they haven't, it's checkmate. This card creates a checkmate scenario in Marvel Snap, and that is why it is absolutely bonkers. So 4 stars is probably too low. And I haven't even begun to talk about Galactus. Look at the synergistic cards here, okay? So Galactus, so good. We already know of this Spider-Man issue before Spider-Man is what he is today with moving cards around. Before, he would just lock up a location. So you'd play Galactus on 5 or 4, and then Spider-Man on 5. Well, it's the same thing now. You wave Galactus, Alioth, game over. Game over. It's just over. Or not, you don't even have to do that, because you can literally Galactus on 5. You're going to have priority if his ability triggers. And then on turn 6, you play Alioth and you win the video game. So that is just crazy. It's going to be so toxic. I don't know how they're going to manage that. It's going to be an issue. And the other one is Kang. I know, crazy. Another big bad. I mean, I don't know if it's all the best. You could still do like Daredevil maybe and try to cheat out Alioth early. That might be better than Kang, because it's a bit of a weaker card. But the idea being, I know where you're going to play. I'm going to destroy it before it even reveals. Maybe it's that big epic card. I could see a lot of turn 6 Kangs leading into Alioth and being a pretty good line of play. Might get your opponent to retreat though. And then lastly, like I was talking about earlier, Professor X. I think that's such a sneaky good synergistic card that probably people aren't quite thinking about, because I love the concept of locking in a location so that I can just focus on the Alioth lane and win it, just straight up win it. And then you get the 5 power to boot. Like, the ability is good enough. I feel like the 5 power, honestly, I feel like it's just so that there's no negative shenanigans or something like that. Because you don't necessarily need the power on this card for it to be a strong card. When you have it at a 5 power and you negative flip it or anything like that, it doesn't quite work out. So maybe that's why, maybe it's not, but I just feel like this is a super strong card. The variants are amazing. It looks amazing. 4 stars, and that's being probably on the lighter side of things. This season doesn't quit, because if you thought Alioth was nuts, I got Ravonna Renslayer at 5 stars, and I'm feeling pretty confident about it. There is one card that absolutely ruins her. Well, there's maybe a few, but one in particular that is coming up next. So stay tuned. I haven't forgotten about that counter, but I still think that this card is just insane, everybody. Okay, so a 3/3 ongoing. Your cards with 1 or less power cost 1 less, minimum of 1. So the same tag that you see on Quinjet or Sarah, right? Minimum of 1. And that's very healthy. We need to have that because it gets a little too out of hand when everything's costing 0. Now, this is not quite Sarah, right? Because she's going to discount everything and she doesn't discriminate. Whereas Ravonna is looking for cards that have 1 or less power, which just really, in my eyes, just creates a deck constraint, deck building constraint that can easily be navigated. Cards with low power do not necessarily mean they're weak. It's just, their abilities have to pay off for the lack of power and for the cost of the card. So if we can make those cards cheaper, their crazy abilities are probably going to propel us to a victory. So I'm looking at things like Mystique, right? Mystique, Cerebro, that combination is insane here. If you want to do Cerebro 3 shenanigans, I'm sure that will be just wild in some fashion. I guess it would be a little bit hard to find enough cards that could get discounted, but straight up, if you run Ravonna and you discount 2 things, it's probably worth running. It's very Zabu-esque, right? So then also Iron Man, that's just crazy, right? Ravonna on 3, Iron Man on 4, play something else on 5, doesn't even matter. Going into that final bell, I'm sure we could have a few cards that we play for very cheap, a whole bunch of them. Easy. One of the worst things, funny enough, is Wakandan Embassy. Wakandan Embassy messes this up. It gives +2 power to all of the cards in your hand, and if they have more power, then her discount's not going to do anything. And then there's typical counters like Rogue, Enchantress, Mobius, which I'm going to get to. Don't worry, I haven't forgot about the next card that absolutely counters this, but I still feel like this is going to be nuts. Even Ravonna into a Hobgoblin. I know the Hobgoblin's not the craziest card, but it is nasty when it pulls off a nice spot. And if you can play it earlier, then you're probably going to be able to find a place where it's safe to play the Goblin and not worry about it getting clogged up and you have a -8 on your side of the board. So there's just a lot. Like, sky's the limit. There's all kinds of cards. Even Mystique copying Renslayer to further discount everything seems crazy. I think this has high amounts of potential of, we didn't see the likes of Rock Slide and a few other cards until cards like Darkhawk and Zabu came into the game. Cost reduction is always crazy. It finds a way. So I fully believe that this card will be 5 stars, and I'm very excited about it. It's also a Series 4 release, guys. So Series 5 is going to be Alioth. He's the only Series 5 card this month. Series 4 Ravonna. And then next up, we have Mobius. Mobius Mobius, a 2/3 ongoing. Your costs can't be increased. Your opponent's costs can't be reduced. See you later, Sarah. See you later, Zabu. See you later, Renslayer. There is so much to counter. That's just cards, guys. There's protection from Iceman, Baron Mordo, if your opponent's ever crazy enough to play that card. There's just all kinds of stuff. There's even pig interactions. The pig is going to be back to its default 4, I think is what it's going to be. It's just going to default back to that. So if you have a Magneto, it'll go to a 4/12. That's crazy. There's so much wild synergy here, including Wave. Okay, so Wave was a bit confusing, right? We didn't think Wave would work this way, but it's been confirmed by Glenn that when you play Wave, after you have Mobius on the field, and you destroyed enough things to make Death cost 0, Death will remain a 0-cost card. In fact, everything else won't go up to 4, right? So if you got a 1 cost, a 2 cost, 0 cost Death, they're not going to go to Wave's 4 costing standard, but your opponent's cards will. They all will go to 4, but yours, right? Unless they cost more, because they can't be reduced. So not only are you pulling up your opponent's low-cost stuff to 4, you're also making it so that their high cost stuff can't even be played if it's like turn 4 or 5 or whatever. Their 6 drop can't be played. This is a crazy interaction. It is definitely going to be everywhere when Mobius is released. Death Wave is back. So previously, Wave was nerfed so that anytime you had Death, no matter what cost it was, if you played Wave, that was the definite answer. Wave would make everything 4. Mobius breaks that rule. I find that crazy. So now you can play Wave on turn 5 with your Mobius out, and then on turn 6, your opponent is limited to playing one card, you know? And it might, that cheap thing that got more expensive, or that expensive thing that was already expensive, doesn't matter. They can play one card. You can play Death plus, I don't know, like 2 or 3 other cards. It doesn't even matter because you're not obeying the rules of Wave. Crazy. So that's the best way that this works. And then Protection from, Iceman or whatever, and then Disruption from a lot of meta cards. So is the 3.5 stars passive? Yes, it's a little bit passive. It just seems like, I don't know, like a tech card that isn't very enticing to put in except for that Death Wave deck, but maybe I'm totally wrong and this is like the most broken card of the month. But there is no denying the strength in this month's cards, and 2 Series 4 releases warms my heart. That is awesome to see. That is how it should be. At least 1 a month. That's what I propose. But 2, we'll take it. It's almost like we had 1 last month. And I think this month's cards are even more exciting. So it's a bit of a win. This season is an absolute win. The card backs look great. Everything looks great. I do have 2 locations to get to. Let's talk about them quickly. So the new locations coming to Marvel Snap are Mount Vesuvius and Time Theater. I think Time Theater is going to be first, but these look pretty good. I'm giving them the Thanos snap, as in I like them. I'm happy they're joining the game. Time Theater, copy the last card you drew, instead of drawing your next card. Pretty cool, I think. Doesn't really affect a whole lot. Maybe a buff for Darkhawk decks because, you don't actually thin your deck anymore. It's 1 less draw, but whatever. It's like on turn 1, 2, or 3, so should be fine, right? Maybe you get 2 Quicksilvers or 2 Dominoes. I don't know. Seems fun. Mount Vesuvius can't retreat after turn 5. Whoa! That is pretty fun. Boomer Snappers unite. You're good to go. Turn 5, snap away. You're good. Nobody can get out of there. I would love to see a clip of Scarlet Witch being played on turn 5, rolling into this, and then the final turn, your opponent's just stuck. Maybe they're just sticking out to just have fun, and then they're stuck. I think it's more funny than toxic. Come on, it's fun. But there you go. Those are the 2 new locations. And then they made a massive announcement about Infinite Rank. I personally, when I get to Infinite Rank, I just don't care about ladder anymore at all. Thank goodness for a Conquest mode, because that's really all I spend my time playing. And then I just try to complete dailies because there's no grind, there's no reward, there's no reason to really get to rank 200 in my eyes, for me personally, right? So now they're changing it so that it actually shows your global rank. I think it's global. I don't really know, but you have a number next to your name. It's going to indicate how close you are to the top. I think that's a lot more enticing to like grind away and take Infinite Rank seriously. If you are in Infinite Rank, I think that's pretty exciting. And it's going to be cool to just see who is actually the best Marvel Snap player at any given time. So anyways, I think that's going to be a great and welcome change, and so much to be excited about, guys. Like amazing cards, 2 cards going to Series 4, amazing variants, cool locations. This season is the best season in Marvel Snap that I can remember. Like I'm just so excited for this. I love this so much. The theme and the cards and the characters, oh my gosh. It's like a 10 out of 10 for me. It's a 10 out of 10. What can I say? Anyways, I hope you guys are just as excited. Thank you so much for watching. I have a lot of exciting content coming soon. We're going to be talking the Loki Snapper Pass in the next couple of days. I'm really excited to share that with you guys. And then also custom card lovers, big news coming. Okay, so stay tuned. Anyways, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys next time.